Hey, 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 hey. Are here. I'm happy people are joining in. People are coming in. I'm excited for this interview with one of my closest friends. Went to school together, but I'm not going to let the intro go too in depth. Let's start the conversation first. So let me introduce my boy, David Asimeng, the creator and the owner of Individual. Let me bring him to the live. Hey,
Yo,
we are live, baby.
can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you well.
All right, cool.
What about me?
I'm sorry?
I'm good over here. You can hear me?
Yeah, we good, man.
We solid over here. Good.
All right. Thank you for having me, for real.
No problem, man. I'm glad to have you. I'm really glad to have you. For those who don't know, like I mentioned before, one of my closest friends and my man have been, what's the word? Been contributing to the culture for sure. Those who don't know, make sure you follow him at Individual right there. If y'all see it, I don't know where we at. Right here. Make sure y'all follow him. So I know who you are. Those who don't know who you are, who the hell are you?
Nobody? No, I'm playing. My name is David Asimeng. I'm from the Bronx. I am 26 years old. I am a visual artist, a graphic designer, an animator, and I'm about to be a business owner.
Come on. You got a comment already, bro.
Thank you for the love, Kayla. But yeah, man, I just love to create stuff. I love to work on anything art related. I love to manifest my ideas and bring them out into the world. And yeah, that's basically me, man.
That's it.
I love God. I'm African. Keep on, don't be hating up in here, man. Yo, my man Eric. My man's Eric is in here. Good looks, fam. Little known fact, I like to dance sometimes. I like to play chess.
I would just start the conversation. Just you good? He said, So where you want to start, David? Do you want to start in the beginning? You want to start in the middle, or do you want to start to where? No, I like to say the future for last. So do you want to talk about now, or do you want to talk about the past first? I'm gonna leave it up to you.
Well, if we're gonna tell the story, we gotta start at the beginning, right?
Hey, you said yourself. So before you came this culture contributor, you were just a black kid at a predominantly white institution trying to make cultivate a future for himself. So talk a little bit about little David before we get to Individual. Let's talk about that. So who was David as a kid and the person who got to Fredonia?
As a kid, I just really love cartoons. All types of cartoons. That was just my world. I guess it was a form of escapism. So like I would just watch, consume all types of cartoons, like everything you can imagine. Like I used to watch Cartoon Network like 24/7 to the point where my dad was like, cartoon, that's all you know, right? Go and read a book every day, every single day. But I hated the fact that he just like belittled it in a way, and how he wanted me to read. Eventually, I did start reading, but it never took away like my imagination. If anything, it fueled it even more. And as I grew up, like into my teens, I began to realize he was right. Cartoons were all I knew. It was my whole world every single day. And he noticed that from jump. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna use that as fuel, right? So I knew that no matter what I wanted to do, I wanted to be involved in the world of like cartoons in some type of way. I wanted to be an artist that kind of pushed the culture and ignited something, and I could create something to sort of pass on the torch. But I knew I had to do it my way. My parents did want me to be the typical engineer, lawyer, doctor kind of thing that's predominant amongst many African families. But
look how that turned
out. Right. I knew that one, I would be miserable trying to get to any of those fields. I tried to compromise, but like it, even architecture or like trying to become like a biology artist or like an anatomy artist, I couldn't do those things. So I was just like, you know what? I gotta go forth and to do what I want to do. Otherwise, I'm gonna be miserable in these other fields, which is then going to show in my performance, and that's not going to make my parents happy anyway. So I might as well just do what I feel like I should do. And it was in my last year of high school that I was like, okay, I'm gonna go towards this, because me and my friends, we just like talking about ideas about like stories we wanted to tell. And we created this small unofficial comic book group in which I was the artist and there were writers, like my friend was a writer, and we would basically sit down in the library after school each day and just talk about different ideas and stuff like that. And that's kind of what sparked my desire to create stories and to visually share things, like share my imagination with people, which then developed into creating more illustrations as well as eventually animations as well in Fredonia, in college that we went to.
So that's before we jump into college, let's talk about kind of like the family. What's a memory from your childhood you never want to forget?
Man, that's a big one. Jeez.
Everybody get crazy.
A memory of my childhood that I'll never want to forget. Actually, it's one that scarred me.
You mind sharing?
It has nothing to do with art though, but it's actually a funny story. So there was one morning when me and my friend, my dad used to pick up other school kids and like he would drive us all to school, so we would just all carpool together, right? And there was one morning where he forgot something upstairs, so he told us to stay downstairs. And what we would usually do is play tag, even if it was early in the morning, we didn't care, kind of woke us up. So we were playing tag this morning. It was pretty foggy that morning, but my friend Kamathi, he was like tall for his age. He was super tall, so he could run really fast. But this time, for some reason, I had mad energy. So I was just like, oh yeah, we're gonna go at it today. So he challenged me to play tag with him. We kind of just going back and forth. And for some reason, I zooted all the way down the block. I don't know how exactly I got past him, but I did. So I'm running and I can hear him calling me from behind. And I'm like, why is he calling me? But I'm still running. So I'm running forward and looking back. He's calling me. He's like, yo, stop. Like, we're done. But I can't hear him. And as soon as I turn back forward, I like hit face first into a steel pole, like one of those light poles. I kid you not, I saw stars, bro. People usually like that's like a cartoon thing. I kid you not, I saw stars and I blacked out. I literally woke up in the car on the way to school with my friend putting tissue to my mouth, all bloodied up and everything.
Yo.
I was like, what actually happened? I'm pretty sure I was concussed a little bit, but I will never forget that because of what happened afterwards. I couldn't eat, had to go to the dentist, I had to get fillings, they didn't stay in. And yeah, and it was pretty bad. It did a lot to my self-confidence because not only were the kids laughing as usual, but then also I heard the teacher snickering. So that kind of like really made it even worse. So it did so much damage to my ego, but it also humbled me because it made me feel like, okay, so who's actually gonna like me? I don't want to smile anymore. So hey Christina. So I had to try and find other things to try and like boost my confidence and my self-acceptance, which took a very long time. Like imagine going going through elementary school, but then middle school and high school with 2 cracked teeth. And, that was pretty difficult. And then also college too. But by the time I was in college, I was like, I don't care anymore.
Real quick, just want to say hi to Cookie. Cookie was saying hi to us.
Yo, Cookie, what's up?
That's a very interesting story. I have a similar story to that where I was in Ohio. This was my diff like 2000. I don't know, 8,
Mm-hmm.
5. I don't know, one of those. But it was early. This is before the glow actually happened. I was chubby. I was when I really shouldn't have been wearing 2XL. But anyways, I was riding a bike, and me and my brother was racing, and we was going down this hill.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were going down the hill, I was like, I'm riding, and not paying attention to another bike coming my way, and we end up colliding. When I say I flipped over my bike and landed on my back, bro. Oh man, and then another story is I was on my scooter and going down a busy street, decent busy street, in Niagara Falls. I'm schooling. I'm probably like, I don't know, 14, 13 at the time, schooling. I guess I hit a crack on the sidewalk. My scooter flipped in the air. I flipped in the air, and I watched my front little tire from my scooter roll down the street. So I'm so confused as like what happened. Like you was mentioning,
yeah,
this car had a nerve to drive into the parking lot, dying. Everyone in the car was laughing at me. Ha ha! You okay, honey? Ha ha! And drove off, bro. Drove off on me. I'm like, yo, that's ridiculous.
Damn.
So you talk about family. Are you the only sibling? If you can, share a little bit of your family dynamic.
Man, I got like 5 sisters.
Oh, word.
Yeah, all older than me. I was tight about that for like in my early years because I didn't want to be the only one. I thought, I guess you could say this is homophobic, but I thought it would make me, you know. So I was like, I begged my parents for a little brother. Eventually I did get one, but it kind of just, I don't know, it only made me feel more of a middle child in a sense. So yeah, 5 older sisters, one younger brother.
You said what? Sorry, you said what? Younger brother?
Mm-hmm. One younger brother.
So what number are you in there?
6.
You the what?
I'm the 6 of 7. But I always felt like a middle child.
Wow.
I had like my baby phase for a long time.
Did you just say your baby face for a long time?
Baby phase.
Oh. Okay, David. Wow. And then talk about your culture. So you say you Guyanese?
No, I'm Ghanaian.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Because I know you're joking.
Yeah.
I'm Ghanaian from Ghana, not Guyana. Always make that mistake, man. It's different. West African culture, I love it, man. It's different.
Were you born there?
I was born here.
Okay.
I came for the first time this time last year. I was just on my way to Ghana.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Amazing. My first time too.
And was there a difference between the culture you was raised in at home compared to the culture that you was experiencing while you was in Ghana?
Absolutely. What? I mean, the atmosphere is so much more laid back, and maybe that's with everywhere around, like that's outside of New York City. But this is like on 10. Like if you think of Cali, like the atmosphere in Cali, it's even like way more chill than that. It's really weird. But there's also like a lot of there's a lot of hype life there too. Like as soon as it hits nighttime, people start going out, and because it's cooler, so like people start actually getting active at night. And that's when you start seeing people come out, people start selling their stuff or whatever, people start blasting their music, and there's not even like roads like how there are here. Like it's like sandy dust roads, and like I don't know how to describe it, but it's just there's no way I can describe it, man. It's something that you have to experience. It's hard for me to describe.
What did you feel? Do you feel like at home in a sense?
Yeah.
Or do you feel like an outsider in your own, pretty much your home place, your home?
Both. Because it felt familiar because the culture is similar, like to how people like immigrants who are here, they kind of bring their culture with them, right? Like they have that atmosphere to them, and obviously the language and the dancing and like all that stuff. So I had that there, but it was like amplified. Plus, I don't know anybody, at least apart from like family and stuff like that, who's hosting me. But it was just, it was this weird balance in a way, because it was like I'm familiar because people are talking in a language that I understand. There's food here that I'm familiar with. There's, I don't know. People look like me, obviously, but it's just like they're all still strangers. You know what I mean? So it's just like it's this weird sense of feeling like you fit in, but you're still out of place.
Now let me ask you that: do you feel like that in America?
Nah, because I grew up here, so it's just more familiar. So it's just like it would be different if I came from Ghana and then assimilated here and then went back. That would be the total sense of like feeling like I have one foot in each place.
Right? So let me challenge you real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
As a black man.
As a black man, what?
Well, you just said you mentioned that being in a place that was, you said almost as familiar, but you felt you was out of place.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that as a black man in today's society?
I think it depends on where you're at, right? Because to me, with the circles that I'm in, they're mostly diverse, and that's just what I'm used to. Fred definitely felt a little out of place in the classrooms and stuff like that. But there were still people I knew in each classroom, but like it wasn't like, yeah, I definitely felt a little bit more of like that feeling of being out of place in Fred more than anything else, because it was less diverse. I guess I'm thrive in places where like either the people, everyone looks like me, or at least some people do. If in the cases where nobody does, then obviously I'm gonna feel like I'm a fly in like a bowl of milk. But
I see you saying.
You know what I mean?
And then you mentioned about growing up and watching cartoons. What was those cartoons that kind of influenced you growing up?
How much time you got? Strangely enough, Powerpuff Girls was the first one.
Yo, no, don't strangers know. Let's clear the room to the no. Masculinity has nothing to do with your taste of music, your taste of show at all. At all.
True.
I get it. But Powerpuff Girl was that show no matter what. Then they had Rowdy Rough Boys that episode. That was still fun.
Thank you. Like I thought I was the only one, but like as I've grown up, I've seen other men have been like in the shadows, just secretly enjoying it as well. So at the time it felt out of place. It felt strange.
That's true. I think we was being raised by men who have fragile masculinity. That's a whole other story.
This is also true.
Sorry, go ahead. What else? You said Powerpuff Girls?
Dexter's Laboratory for sure. Samurai Jack is a good one. Avatar, legendary.
We're gonna get to that in a second.
Oh, man. Let me see what else. Mad anime too. So like I would say Gurren Lagann. I actually wasn't a big fan of Naruto. People are gonna get me for that one.
Yeah, in this interview a little early.
Hunter, Dragon Ball Z, of course, Pokemon. Digimon is slept on.
Come on.
Mega Man. I was a big Beyblade fan. Yu-Gi-Oh. Right, exactly. Let me see what else. It's not, yo.
So let me ask you this: what about Courage the Cowardly Dog?
I actually didn't like it.
Yo, this interview, I mean, this check-in is coming to a wrap. Thank you for joining in.
Yo, I actually did. It creeped me out. It was just like I couldn't, because I would be watching it like late at night and it's dark out, and I'm the only one in the living room watching it. I'm just like, nah, I can't do this, son. Nah.
Yo, there's an episode. I was just talking to my friend yesterday, and we were just chatting about that. And she was just saying that was one of her favorite shows as a kid. And I'm like, yo, because my episode, Return to Slime, it's in the air, right? And that haunted me for a little bit as a
kid. See, I can't do that. My imagination was overactive. Like, I could not handle it. So if I saw anything scary before going to bed, I wasn't sleeping that night. It was clipped. It was what it was, man.
Hold on, let me get together. Professionalism, Ian. All right. Where was I? Okay, so we're talking about cartoon that influenced you. Mm-hmm. Where in your life, where did animation illustration was like came to your mind? Like, this is what I want to do, and this is really what I want to make a career out of it.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it was when like a few of the cartoons that I had really loved, like for example, Avatar or like Samurai Jack and stuff like that. They had given us behind the scenes of how they were created, right? So like I would be seeing how they, like the process of how they just drew something and made it come to life. It was the illusion of giving life to something that didn't exist before that fascinated me. I was like, how do you create a whole world and a character that feels real to me in my experience, but is not actually real? Like, it doesn't go beyond just imagination. So that's when it kind of sparked in me immediately. I was like, no, this is what I got to do. I know I could be doing anything else, but for me, I want to, even if it's just an illusion, I want to bring life to something and make it real for other people the same way it's real for me.
Come on. Hold on. We need a moment right there. Let that sit. Let that marinate. He said he want, pretty much how I took it is you want to be part of that process of giving life to art. Mm-hmm. And that's powerful. That is powerful. And honestly, David, I don't know if you see it. I know we can have hour-long conversation and sometimes I have to remind you of the person that you are. And I'm saying this all because you just mentioned that you want to give life to art, and that's what you do. That's what you do. I think that's why you have a good following on social media, because you are giving life to either nostalgia that was part of our life growing up, or giving life to something else that was never there. And it's powerful. I think that's why you have the following that you have, because you're doing a lot of expression that you don't even know. That could be either helping someone throughout the day, helping someone do something. You are giving life, and I definitely commend you for that.
Well, thank you for boosting me. Definitely giving me the energy to keep going for sure. I appreciate that, man. Seriously, I hadn't, like, when you reflected back on me, I hadn't thought of it that way. But like, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you're right, man. It's a lot to take in.
Because, like, you know, when we had our group meeting last week, one of our good friends, Siobhan, made that comment, you know, comparison is a thief of joy. And that really resonated really heavily for you and I. Mm-hmm. For some reason. And when you post that, and created that. You just put life into a quote. You know, you gave it more life to it, and I think this alone, I'm gonna show it. For those who listen on audio, unfortunately you can't see it, but make sure you check on Facebook or YouTube later when it's set up and live. But this right here, y'all, this is beautiful. I don't know if y'all can see it. There we go.
Yeah.
Its comparison is the thief of joy. Look at it. I want y'all to take the time off. And if y'all not following him yet, make sure you follow him. I'm gonna put it right here. Make sure you follow him because that is crazy. Talk to me a little bit about what do this quote means to you.
Okay, so when Siobhan had first said it, it was in relation to. Okay, I'm not gonna say what we were talking about, but he was definitely trying to highlight how I was playing the comparison game, how I was comparing myself to other people, who I don't even know their, like I was comparing my full movie to someone else's highlight reel.
Come on, say it one time. Who the people that didn't hear you? You was comparing what?
I was comparing my whole movie to someone else's highlight reel or their trailer. And when people show you the best parts, especially on social media, it's easy to get caught up and say like, dang, why am I not doing the same thing that they're doing? When in reality, you're not seeing the full scope. Like you're not seeing the full picture. You don't know how they got there or even what happened after whatever they showed you. So to compare everything that you're going through to someone else is not only unfair to them and their truth, but it's also unfair to you and your truth. And it's actually kind of ungrateful in a sense, because despite everything that you're doing and the things that you are personally going through, they don't have that same story. They don't have those same circumstances. So you might actually be using an unbalanced weight to try and compare the two when you don't know the full story. And when you do that, it robs you of your joy, it robs you of your contentment, and ultimately it leaves you unhappy because you're saying it's not what you have is not good enough. And someone in the comments of what I had posted, they said, whether you have more or whether you have little, appreciate what you have, period, or something along those lines. And I thought that was beautiful because it just accentuates the point of like appreciating what you have. I feel like myself included, a lot of people do not do that enough. Like appreciating the small things of like, it's snowing outside, like it's a storm out here. And just taking a minute to appreciate the fact that I'm in a very warm room right now is enough to be grateful for. On top of the fact that I got food in the fridge, on top of the fact that I can do what I love, like every single day. These are very minute things that because I'm going through it every single day, I don't pay enough attention to. But if I really give more credence to it, I'll actually be more happy, more satisfied in my life because I'm seeing all the things that I do have instead of focusing on the things that other people have that I wish I did. You know what I mean? So
come on, and yeah. I'm glad. That was a word for both of us that evening.
Yeah,
it was definitely a word for both of us that evening. You talk about, we talk about comparison as a thief for joy, and you mentioned just briefly like a little bit of lack of motivation. Just talk to me a little about how do you find motivation through this pandemic? I know for myself, I will share with myself, it was a little bit difficult in the beginning. Personally, because we had conversation, but it was definitely difficult, especially as a creative like myself and like yourself. It was hard to kind of find that when you have your mentality is a little bit screwed because of what's going on in society. So talk to me, how did you navigate that?
I fear what I'm about to say is not going to be very encouraging. But like if it doesn't come out right, please just charge it to my head and not my heart.
Ooh, okay.
If anything, I've realized more of my potential during this pandemic, right? I'll be transparent and admit that I almost lost my day job during this pandemic, right? Um, there was times when because my health had wavered as well. Like there was a certain scare that I had during like earlier this year, and I had to take more care of myself, and that also made me question a lot of things. But two things I never questioned was the fact that God was going to carry me through, regardless of whatever happened. But then also,
Come on.
I'm going to be all right.
Come on.
If I had lost my job, I do think that I would have maybe not easily pivoted, but I think I would have pivoted well to entrepreneurship and just going all out and provide, like being able to um, go into my own lane and do my own thing much more than I already am right now. Um, and I think that that was due to my personal discipline, right? So, like, because of the consistency I had already shown previously before the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
that's what carried me through to have to keep on motivation. There was definitely times where I ran out of ideas for sure, but the fact that I was already in the practice and like the constant motion of trying to create new ideas and understanding that sometimes they don't always come when I want them to, or um, inspiration just isn't always there, so I couldn't rely on it. Trying to maintain a discipline of going through it anyway and putting one foot in front of the other anyway, and just focusing on the next step specifically, not whether or not I would have the next 10 steps or what I would do next or anything like that. Just focusing on doing what I could do in the moment and leaving the rest to God. For me personally, that is what has helped me along with the discipline of just making sure that I'm doing the next best thing. I cannot afford to be worried about making the wrong move, because if I make the wrong move, then what's done is done. But if I focus on doing the next best thing, then the motivation will come. There will be some sort of inspiration that comes along. There'll be some. It always comes along. If it came before, it will come back again. Um, but I need to be prepared, and I need to be ready for that next opportunity, and I need to make it if need be. It's just a matter of having that vision of like, okay, I know the types of things that I want to do. And even though I don't have all of the answers with me right now, if I focus on doing what I can do right now, then things will fall into place later. And I'll begin to formulate and I'll get right back on it as I usually do, because it's always a roller coaster.
This life of business definitely is an up and down thing.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. But that's where I'm at right now, personally, just like keeping the discipline, making sure that I'm trusting in God, like actually like doing one of those trust falls into his arms and doing the next best thing. Trying to make the next best choice that I can possibly make.
Just phenomenal. And I'm glad you got through it. It's definitely not a process, an easy process. Now let's kind of dive a little deeper into who David was in Fredonia in college.
Okay.
So the David I know, and I meant to ask you before we went on if there's anything that we're not supposed to talk about, but
let's go for it. We're here now.
I guess. But to switch up the mood a little bit, David, I didn't know how awesome a person you are or how strong a person that you are until I heard a little bit more about your story. Where you come from, where you came from, and what you went through. I think the things you had went through, a lot of people would have gave up. A lot of people, honestly, David, I think I would have gave up. I think that's a lot to handle at a younger age too.
Yeah.
So, how did you did the situation at hand happen a little bit before Fredonia? And if you don't mind, you want to talk a little about the situation. How soon was that? And then how was you able to navigate college and still kind of have that in your mental and still be the pop? Like, David, I have never seen you in a bad mood. I have seen you frustrated, like just recently I have, but from recently until we met in Fredonia, I have not seen you frustrated, upset, depressed, down. But you know, that's what we do sometimes. We internalize it. But anyway, just expand on that if you don't mind.
So, both of my parents had cancer. My dad had cancer before my mother. He had pancreatic cancer and diabetes. So those two paired together kind of made him deteriorate much earlier. So I would say he passed away like 2009. 2009. And
What
that was
grade?
school. So what?
It was like 9th, 10th grade for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. So it was pretty rough. Strangely enough, I have this weird thing where um, the morning that we found out that he had passed away, I still went to school. Like a dummy. But I went to school because one, it was sort of an escape. And also it was sort of obedience because my parents wanted me to get that education. They wanted me to do better than they did. It was sort of like, okay, I'm going to do this for you kind of mindset, right? So, I mean, they told me to go back home, like at school, but it it still didn't change the fact that like I had this. My parents had instilled in me a certain type of diligence to like, no matter what, get back on top. Understand what you're going through, but don't let it deter you from reaching your goals. So after that, I kind of had like I already had my mindset of like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I can't become the type of architect or anything like that you guys want me to be. I'm still gonna be an artist, but I'm at least gonna get my college degree, and I'm gonna make it out from there for y'all, right? That was after that one. Few years later, my mom was also going through bone cancer, and it hurt for a while to see her in pain, and then even what solidified the diligence that they had instilled within me even more was that she was also going to school. She went to school. She wanted to get her bachelor's, and she did it all while like coughing up blood sometimes, which I didn't know until after the fact. And like she was going through a lot, but she still wanted to do more for herself. So she understood her situation, and yet she still wanted to go higher until she couldn't anymore. That type of mindset was instilled in me just from their example in their life, right? So when she had passed away, she had she had fallen into a coma right before my graduation, and that kind of rocked me because
of high school, right?
High school, yeah. It kind of rocked me because I was just about to go to Fred, but having that situation, I had to like my sister was at home. Well, my youngest older sister. The rest of my other sisters, they had already like left the home and stuff like that. They were in their different places. So it was just me, my sister, my brother, and my mom. But my sister was in college, so it was just me and my brother at home when my mom had fell into the coma. So I had a decision to make. Okay, I'm probably gonna have to drop out so I can take care of my brother. Luckily, people from the church stepped in, from my local church stepped in, and they was like, okay, don't worry about that. You go to school, we'll figure out everything. Graduated, and they definitely stepped in with like almost everything, and they helped us to be able to situate ourselves. My uncle moved in, and there was a whole bunch of different stuff going on. But the day before, no, the day of college orientation that I was supposed to be leaving, we found out that my mom had passed away. So yeah, so literally the day before, I didn't. I did the same thing I did when I was younger, where I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go to school. I didn't know what else to do, but it was also a form of escapism. Like I didn't want to be at home with all of that despair and death in the air. I had to get out. So it wasn't just me trying to be obedient; it was me trying to get away from the situation as well. Um, I still had a lot of reckoning to do within myself. Like there was a lot of reflection that I had to still do, even when I had left. Like it was at that point that I knew I couldn't like keep running away from it. So I had to write. Um, I sort of dove into poetry, and there was a lot of dark pieces that I wrote, but they were necessary for me to be able to like really push through and actually have an understanding. And there's probably still more effects that I haven't like effects on my psyche that I haven't really discovered yet. But I do know that that process helped me to heal, and art also helped me to heal because I could be able to express things that I couldn't express even in words. So there was a lot of stuff going on in my head that I couldn't necessarily explain all the time. So even when writing didn't help as much, art still helped me to push through. Um, but most of all, I felt fathered um, by God in a strange way because I felt like an orphan in many ways that other people didn't understand. Like obviously, there are other people who have gone through similar situations.
Right, right,
I didn't know a lot of people around me who had lost both of their parents as well. So
right.
it was also that part was isolating in the sense that like I felt like nobody quite understood except for my siblings. But even then, we were all still shut out because we didn't know how else to cope, right? So at the time, we were all still pretty like to ourselves, even though we still understood amongst one another, like, okay, yeah, this is how it is. You know what I mean? So
And David, I don't mean to cut you off, but you just been saying some very very wowing things, especially about your mother who persevered and still went to school. Now, someone who mother fought thyroid cancers twice and decided to go back to school, uh, dealing with financial aid situation, being told no, being told that okay, you about to graduate, but you actually got to come back next semester to finish three more classes that we forgot to tell you,
mm-hmm.
and then continue to get the door closed, and my mom continued to persevere and go and still do what she needs to do because this is for her, is what she wanted to do, and to hear that story about your mom persevering even through all that, that just the first person that jumped into my mind was my mom because that is somebody who's continuing to show me that no matter the bullshit that we have to go through, you can just continue to go through it, and you gonna get through it as long as you know you can get through it.
Yeah.
And when you spoke about that not necessarily dealing with the news that you got and just going to school, um, I I don't think we had this conversation outside of this platform, but I don't have many regrets in my life. I don't. But one of my regrets is not seeing my stepfather. A lot of people don't know I had a stepfather.
Mm.
My stepfather passed away from cancer. His cancer escalated so quickly that he ended up passing away. And I was at community college at the time, and I did exactly what you did. I didn't go to the funeral, bro. I made sure I picked up hours at retail. I made sure that I was busy all week. I made sure that I was picking up hours, bro. Like that, the hours that I really didn't need. I was picking up hours so I didn't have to worry about.
Yeah.
And my thing about that was um, someone who's somewhat of Superman to you, and to know that Superman is now no longer Superman,
Yeah.
that was extremely difficult for me to handle that because he's a big guy. He's more of a father figure than my own father, to be honest. He taught me how to shave, and he's a quarter. He's black and white, but mostly he's mixed. But he look from face value white, but he's black and he's half black. But there's things that he taught me and things that I wish my own biological father would have taught me, but seeing that person down, I just personally could not handle that.
Yeah.
And, so I always try to make sure moving forward after that I at least create a safe, a strong mindset to put myself in a place where I do say my have a celebration of goodbye rather than not saying goodbye at all. I haven't said goodbye.
Yeah.
So that's something that really sits with me still to this day.
I'm sorry to hear that, bro. I never knew that. My condolences for real. Wow. I did not know that ever.
Even your story, like I just knew you lost two significant people in your life, but then they know about your mom going to school and all of that, and again, and me being in higher education and working with students and dealing with the pandemic and hearing the things that they are going through as students and what's happening at home. People are losing their family members and things like that. I don't know where you found the strength. I really don't, because as what you were 19, maybe 18,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
going to what 8 hours away to a predominantly white institution, not knowing nobody. I'm not too sure if you knew a few people or not, but still not really knowing nobody and carrying this weight with you, bro. Like I don't know how you did it, but you did it, but you did it in a positive way.
Mm.
A lot of people can't find that strength of positivity to help them navigate through that situation like yourself.
Honestly, bro, yes, I did do it, but I didn't do it alone.
Come on.
You know what I mean? Like, I honestly do not think there's any type of way I could have gotten through any of that, or even what's going on right now, without the grace of God. And people say that, like, I feel like people may throw that around just to just for like formality's sake, but I legit mean that. I'm not sure where I would be in terms of like mentally, especially if God was not like with me. You know what I mean? And that's, to me, that's just pure grace. There's no way that I could possibly explain it, because when you go through, there's many different types of depression. When you go through any type of depression, it feels like, for me, it felt like a cloud, right? Like, it felt like something just like looming over you, and there aren't words to quite express it. You're tired, you don't really want to do nothing, but at the same time, you know everything that you have to do, or things that you know you should be doing at the same time, which adds more pressure. You know what I mean? So like, it's hard to communicate even all the things, because it feels like everything you're feeling or everything you're thinking goes beyond expression. And that's why I don't know how I got through it. Like, I couldn't possibly tell you. I can try and think of logical ways that to me make sense in my head as to how I got through, but ultimately I really do think it's beyond me. Like, I really do think it's only God who got me through it. And that's why I'm always talking about him so much, because when you're actually in a relationship with somebody, of any kind of relationship, and they've helped you in ways that are like so immense, all you can do is sing their praises. You know what I mean? I think that's why we sing the praises of people that like of parents that we're close to, or siblings, or our best friends, because we've not only seen their strength, but we've also seen how loyal they are and how much they've contributed to our own lives, whether in small ways. So I think the same thing applies to God in the way that like he's been not only exemplary in my life, but also so effective in my life. I honestly don't have any other answer than God.
You remember when I hit you with that quote that one day? John 13:7. I'm paraphrasing as we speak, but it says pretty much, "You may not know what I'm doing now, but you will later." When I sent that to you, what was going through your mind?
My life, my entire life, because that's literally like, if I could explain my entire life, like that's seriously what it's been, in a way that like that's why I like chess so much because it reminds me of the how God thinks. He's thinking like mad steps ahead, and what seems like a loss now is actually just to get you into position for a win at the end, right? Just for that check, that sweet checkmate at the end. It's just like when you look back, it's like, yo, you really put all these pieces together just to get me right here. I can only imagine what you're going to do next, right? So like every time I feel a loss, it feels like he's just pulling me back for the setup. You know what I mean? Like it's just there are so many different things in my life that ultimately feels like it was kind of unfair, but I also believe that I went through those things so that I could encourage other people going through them as well. For one reason or another, that's another way I feel like I'm supposed to be able to pass on the torch and to be able to express it in ways that sometimes words cannot fully complete. And that's why I love art so much, because I'm able to communicate a lot of things. Yes, with the assistance of words, but if I can communicate something without words, then I've transcended all languages and I've been able to communicate something brand new. And that's what's so powerful to me. And that's why I feel so grateful to be in the position that I'm in right now.
Mm. What one of your favorite memories that we share in Fredonia?
Oh man.
Anything that's appropriate to share.
Nah, I'm playing. Honestly, literally the nights where we were just all chilling, right? Like nights where we really wasn't doing nothing.
Yeah.
Parties were cool, but honestly, just chilling with the guys again, like whenever it's just us guys, is literally the dopest thing in the world. Like, I don't know, there's a sense of peace that comes with it because you know a joke is coming right around the corner, or you know we about to just talk about something that's actually interesting or like debate something. Like to me, those were like really dope times, as well as like times where you're just being stupid. Yeah, man. There was a lot of Nerf gun battles and stuff like that, or honestly, it was mostly y'all being stupid. Honestly,
When you define y'all, who's y'all?
y'all. Kimon, Ian, Siobhan, Dean, y'all was always up to something. That's why I love being around y'all. I was like, these guys are gonna do something today.
And, you know, when I got added to the group, I added a little splash of wildness in it because you know I'm a little bit wild. Everybody like, hello, good evening, but y'all really know Ian, right. who's gonna take a decent moment and do a whole 380 in it.
You're gonna take it left, bro. Every single time. It's just like, yo, what are you talking about? Actually, another time that I like one of those times that I remember just being on what's it called? This bus that Kimon always used to drive.
Escort bus?
The escort bus, man. There was a few times where Jasmine, you don't know how wild this man is.
Yo, JB know what's up.
Oh man, stop playing. But yeah, escort bus. I only stayed a couple times, but I was like, I can't stay all night with you people, man, because y'all was yeah, one trip around. It's just like I don't know, but yeah, man, there's a lot of good times for sure.
Good time, and even in those short moments. Yeah, I told you before. I told you several times, like, yes, Kimon, just close friends of mine that's going to be uncles, but my choice and godfather is you. I mean, when I told you that,
man, I'm shocked because I don't know. I don't know, man. Like I'm saying, if I was like, if I was Kimon, I would have fought you. Like, how come I can't be the Godfather?
So it's crazy. You know what's crazy is Kimon's daughter. I was under an assumption that I was going to be her godfather. I don't know Kimon watching this, but But we was young though at that time. But I don't know. But I'm her uncle, and she know that I'm her uncle, and Uncle E.
Okay, all right then. Let it be known. But yeah,
Yeah,
man, I'm being flattered by that.
yeah. Listen, I
Yeah.
know, I know. Kevon then would take care of my child, but it's somebody that I would definitely want in the back end from the cut. That if all fails and we gotta press that with that, that nuclear button that we calling David Asimeng. Asimeng
Right.
coming to take care. I just
Okay.
know my child will be in good hands. I really do. I think you have a good balance of being conservative but also free spirited at the same time. And that's what I like about you because you have a good balance. So say my child grow up and want to get a tattoo, you're not going to necessarily like, oh, you can't get a tattoo. You more so be like, what type of tattoo you going to get? What is going to represent you? What does it really represent? What's the purpose? Like you want to challenge my child in the most in the best way. Not like your way is the end of all way. You get it? And I appreciate that about you. Um,
All right then.
what do you since you take for granted, and why do you think you do?
Uh, okay, I'm gonna just be real with the first thing that came to mind.
Talk to me.
First thing that came to mind is honestly the follower count, right? Like I, by the grace of God, I have been able to amass and continue to grow a following on Instagram specifically, and
About 80,000 followers, people. Go ahead.
it's definitely skyrocketed this year for sure. Um, but one thing I've sort of always been weary about is letting it get to my head. I don't want to be a person where like I treat people differently simply because of like where I'm at now, right? Like, or to believe that I'm entitled to anything because of the follower count, or if I ever get that blue check, right? Because as hard as it was to get to this point, I also don't want to forget that I could easily go right back to zero. Um, and I don't want to take it for granted, but I just usually I have an aversion towards even like bigging myself up or letting people know like how many Instagram followers or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, it like God forbid Instagram shuts down tomorrow, I'm still back at one. So you know what I mean? So I do think that I've been trying to humble myself in that way, but at the same time, I may have it may have backfired in a sense because I may not be taking full advantage of the opportunities that are presented before me to be able to collaborate, to be able to bring in more business, um, and ultimately to give myself a pat on the back every once in a while because I don't want to get gassed. You know what I mean? Like I want to be confident, but I don't want to be cocky about anything that I have or anything that comes my way.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I may overdo it sometimes, and it's hard. It's difficult finding the balance between um, humility and what's the word, hubris. It's a very fine line for me personally. So yeah.
My next question is, what concerns you most about your future?
Um, I was gonna say like being not being able to reach my dreams, but I honestly feel like I'm in the process of making my dreams happen.
Come on.
I'm working on something on the back end um, that I may have mentioned once or twice on Instagram or whatever, but it's ultimately like the end game for me. Like that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Um, and I'm not going to be able to say it just yet, but it is coming next year. Or at least the beginning of it. that's where I really start from zero, and that's where I really begin, right? So I can't say that. I know that's God willing, that's coming to pass. I would say my health, but even these days, I'm drinking water more, I'm eating fruits more, like I'm taking pretty good care of my body, exercising more, all that stuff. Um, I guess a fear that I give into way too often is financially being where I want to be. I'm not in a bad place at all. Like, I feel quite comfortable with where I'm at. However, I do understand like the financial demands that are on me now. I'm growing. Me and my sister and my brother, we live on our own now, and a lot of the financial burdens do tend to fall on me. And though I'm in a good position, for some reason I can never shake the fact of like, okay, you have enough. For some reason I always feel like I don't have enough, which could be fuel for greed or selfishness or not trusting in the fact that God always got me. But for some reason I keep falling into that fear, and it makes me I have like this sense of stinginess almost that I have to fight against because I don't want to withhold, but at the same time, I feel like I won't have enough if I let go, which is very difficult for me personally. But it's something that I have to keep reminding myself of that, like, number one, my money is ultimately not my own. I'm supposed to be a financial steward. Like, all my money belongs to God because He's the one who, like, let it flow my way.
Come on.
Allowing it to come in and go out and stuff like that. So ultimately, He's in control of all of that. But it still, if I'm honest, like it still lingers in my mind. Like, do I have enough? The answer is usually yes, but it don't feel like that.
I mean, hey, it's okay now to be content sometimes, you know? It's okay to be a little hungry. It's okay to want a little bit more. Um, I have a few more questions, David. Usually we stop at an hour, but I'm sorry. This is season 2 finale, so I have a couple more questions, if you don't mind.
Come on.
Being an artist that you are, that quite frankly, this not those who's watching, this is not me boosting him, but a lot of his stuff really get blown up. Especially Juneteenth, where a lot of your artwork was seen all over the world, honestly. Talk to me, how do you deal with people trying to take your shit?
Okay. This is often one of the things that I tell people who may not be content with their level of exposure. It's a very double-edged sword that people don't often think about when it comes to exposure with art or anything that you produce of any kind that kind of like blows up out of proportion or in a way that you didn't necessarily expect. On one hand, it's beautiful because I've created something, again, without words, that has touched people in a way or communicated something to them that they can now interpret and then share on their own or expound upon. And it's beautiful because they get it, or they have interpreted something that I didn't even think about, right? So like it's beautiful to see people connect with something that truly came from the heart and something that you didn't expect to touch others. The other side of that is a lot of times, many people, not everybody, but many people can be very self-serving. And that comes out in the sense of either being absent-minded and unintentionally doing something that could hurt you as a creator, or intentionally trying to crop you out so that the spotlight can be
Your tone changed when you said intentionally cropping you up.
Because it's very annoying when you see it, one, happen so often, but then also to see people get caught and now all of a sudden their tone changes, or like everything shifts, or they double down and they really don't care about taking advantage of you and the work that you put in and the time that you put in to be able to create something. They so just snatch it and they take it and they send some people even put their own label on it. There's a lot of different levels of disrespect that comes with exposure. And that's why I always tell artists that it's not a good form of compensation. Don't ever accept that. But I do believe that when you're going into this game of putting your artwork out into the world, you have to be cognizant of the fact that not everybody's going to be in your corner. That should not deter you, because there's going to be plenty of people who are, and they will be your shooters. They will call out anybody they need to call out because they understand what you're doing.
I've seen people putting people on blast. I'll be ready to say something, and I'll look, oh, somebody did it already for me. So I'm like, oh.
You know what I mean? And that's a beautiful part of like people understanding and appreciating the work that you put out into the world. And ultimately, like, even after you're gone, it's going to be something that could leave an imprint on other people after you who remain. You know what I mean? So there's many benefits. You just have to be very keen about how you go about exposing yourself or exposing your artwork. And that's also something that I would love to encourage more artists to do, is put your name on that thing. Put your name on everything. In a creative way, weave your name into everything, right? So that's actually not mine. I tagged her in it. But but weave your name into everything so that people can see, like, okay, there's no way that I could try and crop out this person's name. So even if I repost it, and I don't tag, this person's name is still in the artwork. You can't take that away from them. That was actually one of my more spicy joints.
This is one of my favorites.
Yeah,
all I need is a flat surface and like maybe a light behind it so the can pop out. And if that was in my room, dude.
I think you're giving me an idea, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah. My next question is your series on Hood Commandments.
Hood versions.
Hood versions. Talk to, because I think that's one of your big contributions to the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that come from? Talk a little about it. Expand on it.
The source of Hood versions can be summed up in a combination of the Bible, Black Twitter, and the Boondocks.
A good combination. That's a real good combination.
I wanted to be able to illustrate, because there's the King James Version, there's the ESV, there's all different types of versions of the Bible in which people try to explain or reinterpret whatever God was doing with the Israelites at the time that he was doing it, with Jesus specifically and everything like that. There's plenty of different ways, and even in different languages, that people try to bring God to the forefront and bring the gospel to people. Hood versions is my way of being able to do that, whether it's in comics, whether it's in animation or illustration or whatever it is. The central point is to get people to have a relationship with God and his word, right?
Yeah.
And I think by doing that in the way that like emphasizes African-American English vernacular and just the different, like, I would say sprinkles of hip hop and even sometimes anime culture and all that stuff, and then bringing it all together and illustrating it. I think that's my way of being able to present the gospel in a new way. And I really just love the experience of trying to communicate something yet again with art in a way that touches other people. Yeah, man, that's my baby. That was my first thing that I ever tried to create, like on a larger scale in a series, and it's something that I will continue to try. And
listen, the church folks know what you're talking about. And I'm telling you now. I know those who are more in tune to the gospel than I am. That loves it. That just, oh wow, it speaks to them. It's just putting that the word of God in a sense in a different perspective in a different way, but most likely it's in reality in a sense.
Yeah.
It's funny as hell, but in retrospect, it's really reality.
Yeah.
Um, Say if we had to create something together, what do you think it would be?
If you and I created something,
Yes.
most likely it would probably be a series, probably a docu-series, a slightly animated docu-series highlighting new and upcoming artists from all over America, right? So like we would do it like in a sort of video game fashion where we show their stats or what they're good at and stuff like that, and highlight that on the side, and then explain from how they got, like they give us a story of like how they got to from where they were to where they are now, and it would have like highlights of like different animations sprinkled all throughout it and stuff like that. Probably a Netflix series.
You jumped on that quick. Have you thought about this?
I just thought about that.
That was cool. How does your relationship with your family affect your relationship with others?
Man, in one sense, it makes me more. I think it has made me more empathetic to other people, and just trying to listen first, because I think what makes people feel most lonely is not feeling heard or not feeling accepted, but if you were actually to listen to somebody and to actually like hear their story, try to understand them, then that's what would make them feel accepted, feel understood, and feel at home with you. On the other hand, I do the exact opposite, where I'm not sure if people have actually noticed, but like I tend to keep people at an arm's length, and it's not on purpose. It's literally just because I don't have the, like if I wanted to, if I had the actual energy, I would be much more consistent in a lot of people's lives because I would have the energy to do so. But I genuinely don't have the energy to keep up with as many people as I'd like to, simply because there's too many people and there's only one of me on top of the things that I also want to pursue, right? So that creates distance between me and the people in my life. And I don't want it to be that way. I do try to make them a priority, but at the same time, I need to be able to find a balance for me personally. And that's what creates like this weird dichotomy of me trying to make someone feel at home with me as much as possible, yet still keeping them at an arm's length somehow. It's difficult.
What is something about you that you wish other people knew?
I'm not an extrovert, y'all. I do not like to be talking like that. I promise you. Like having good conversations is amazing and it's beautiful. Like that's why I love Ian, because we can always have good conversations. I always like to talk though. Like a lot of people think that because I start discussions and I like to see people debate about stuff and I like to be like a devil's advocate, that I like to be talking all the time. That's not the case.
Play devil's advocate.
I love me a devil's what I feel like it's a really bad phrase, but that's the one I got. I like being that person who's contrarian. Just for the sake of it, just for the sake of good conversation. But I don't really like to talk that often as many people might perceive.
Who has influenced you the most and how?
Jesus count?
All right, he does not count.
Man, it's really a combination of a bunch of people. Like it's a combination of like my favorite artists, like Action Hank Beard on Instagram is like one of my favorite artists of all time.
Now, why? Let's use him. Let's just use him.
Mm-hmm.
And why?
I guess he's like sort of already done what I'm doing right now, in a sense that like he did this whole series on reimagining all of the characters from Hey Arnold as if they were older, and he created storylines for them, and he was able to sort of bring them, sort of revive them. And at the time, I was just like, yo, how do you have the mind to be able to do this? And then eventually I wanted to try it myself, and you see me doing it all the time now as well. But at the time, no one else had done it. And I really have an admiration for pioneers, for people who can do something first and do it well, right? Like to not only like do something before anyone else has a chance to do it, but to do it in excellency so that the bar is so high that the next person who comes up to do it has to be better than you. They have to be so much better than you. And even then, they can't even claim that they're fully better than you because they needed you to do it first. And that's kind of like admiration I have for him. But also he's very chill about it. He's not like your typical person who's very loud and like obnoxious. He's very chill and laid back, and he just does his thing. I love that. But yeah.
Who have you felt the closest to this year, and why?
My girlfriend Angela.
I'm sorry, what?
I don't broadcast it too much because she's not really she doesn't like to be like out in the public and stuff like that, and I respect that. But she's honestly become my absolute best friend in the span of this year alone. And because of our consistent engagement and stuff like that, I really feel like even though we don't have in the beginning, we didn't have a lot of shared interests. We had a lot of shared values for sure. We had a lot of equivalent visions, but we didn't necessarily share a lot of the same interests, and that still didn't get in the way somehow because we're still learning one another, and we've been able to confide in one another, build a firm foundation for trust. And honestly, I tell her absolutely everything. There's things I haven't told y'all that I told her, which is kind of crazy.
When this group chat real quick. That's not here or there though, but go ahead.
Yeah,
that's wonderful, bro. That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. If you don't mind, how did you meet her?
You really want to know?
Bro, I need to know because as a single black educated man with no children, I find it's hard to find or date in this pandemic or today's society. I would definitely admit that I was dating someone last year. Last year in August, I would say, of 19, and until a little bit October. That was wonderful. That was a wonderful time, but sometimes things come to an end. Not in a bad way, mutual way, still correspond today. But since then, it's been dry as hell. So, any advice for a guy like me, who actually is open to a relationship? I would say this: I'm not into that Tinder swiping left, swiping right, up and down, left, right. I ain't on that cheat code type of shit.
Honestly, what I tell my guy friends and my lady friends, to me, that's limiting yourself, right? Because not only are you limited to the scope of the people who are just around you, there may be people outside of your scope that fit you just well, that are just outside of what you're usually used to in terms of geographically, but then also maybe in terms of interests and stuff like that. They may be just outside of that, but you haven't been exposed to them. You don't see them, right? That's what these things are for. I do agree that to a certain extent, some of them might be addictive where you're just going on just to go on. But I usually tell people in the beginning when we first met, I've told other people that we met in the park. We just met in the park and that's it. Don't ask no questions. But we actually met on Hinge before we met.
Oh! Is that Hinge is the app that can be deleted?
it was certainly deleted. I ain't never going back. I tell you that right now.
Oh, okay. I guess I gotta give this dating app shit a try again. I guess.
Good, because I feel like a lot of people limit themselves in the sense that, like, when you're only relegated to the people who are the people you meet at work or the people, I don't know, maybe at church. To me, church would probably be the second go-to. At least for Black people, that's usually where a lot of Black folk meet. Even if they're not like usual church goers, they still somehow meet in church. So if not the, if you're not going to be on them apps, go somewhere on Sunday. I mean, you can't go now, but I mean.
Listen, David, I tend to want things that I just can't have. I tend to want things when they are taken, if you know what I mean. And I'm not trying to go back in those ways. That's how I used to be.
Heard you.
Used to be. But God is working on me. He's working on me.
Come on.
And those FB days is over with. But I left that at Fredonia. I tried to, at least. Wow. Before we wrap up, we have these awesome ass hoodies on. Talk to me. Where does the inspiration come from? I don't know if y'all see this. It's Avatar remakes. Everyone else in the Avatar, I wouldn't say everyone, but obviously the most important characters are converted into Black people. Even though it was Black either way, but yeah, in my opinion.
So this actually came from a prompt on Instagram within the art community called Blacktober, right? And it started from a whole controversy about how one artist stole from a Black creator and essentially ripped off his whole book. So
that's the whole African history, to be honest.
I mean, you ain't lying.
We still don't get credit for the cell phone.
That's a whole different discussion right there. But yeah, instead of doing Inktober as people usually do, they created this thing called Blacktober, where you take any character from any cartoon or production and you make them into a Black character. So I started early. I love this so much. I started early, and I started in September, just working out like different characters that I'd love to see reimagined. And Avatar was one of those. Was one of those shows, and I just like turned them all into essentially melanated characters, and I love every bit of it because I got to explore more of my West African roots, but then I also dipped into the Caribbean a little bit as well, just trying to explore a little bit of the diaspora and kind of like spread it across, because in the original series, it really highlights all the beauty of Asian cultures across the world. So in the same way for this prompt, I wanted to do something similar where it's not just about West Africa, but there's also South Africa. There's also a little bit of Eastern Africa in there, but then also I wanted to touch on the Caribbean and stuff like that. So yeah, man, I really loved making these or reimagining these characters rather, and I loved it so much that I wanted to put it on a t-shirt, on a hoodie.
And for those who's watching and those who are listening, unfortunately, we are running out of merch. But right now, we definitely have some smalls. If y'all trying to do some last minute shopping for some kids or a nice lady, or I don't know, too many guys that's a small. But,
they kids. Kids definitely take some of these smalls.
The smalls will definitely fit a kid for sure. Fit a young woman. They are. You can find them. The hoodies are about $40, and the shirts are about $30.
Yeah.
If you in the Buffalo area, I might be able to talk to the owner. Oh, this.
Other way.
No, wait. No. Oh,
there you go, right there.
this guy, and I will take away the shipping fee, and I will personally drop it off.
All right, come on.
But I gotta talk to the this guy. I'm pretty sure he would give me the green light.
Yeah.
But yes, make sure y'all try to get a hoodie on there. Y'all can see it. Definitely. Let me get a little closer. Comfortable. The fabric is comfortable. Love it. It's soft. I slept in it once. You can wash it. You can dry it. And look, do all this, and it's no problem. It's not rinky dinky. I promise you, it's worth the money. As we wrap up, bro, I just got maybe just 2 more questions. That's okay.
All right, come on.
All right. What do you find most challenging in your life right now?
I have too much on my plate. Said yes to too many things and pursuing a few too many endeavors. So I'm gonna have to reel it back, and I'm going to have to figure out what exactly I want to put all of my attention and energy towards, and go in all on that. Because right now I feel like I'm multitasking, which for some people isn't a problem, but for me that's not how I work most efficiently. Because then my attention is on many different things, and it's harder to come to completion for all those different things. So I have to prioritize and zone in on one thing, and then go one after the other. So yeah, if people are thinking about commissions, them joints is closed. Like I can't. There's some slots open for the Patreon right now, but even then, I might cut it short because it's a bit much right now with everything that I have planned for next year.
And what advice do I continue to give you, David?
I mean, which one? Could you give me a lot of advice?
Taking a day out of the week just to focus on yourself, at least. Do something that pertains to David, even though your artwork is you, but outside of that life, you know.
Right.
So my other question: describe one experience you wish you would have in the future.
One experience I wish I would have in the future. If I could work with Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network on an idea that I came up with, man, I feel like that would rock my world. You know what I mean? Like, or if honestly, if I could do anything in like the animation or production space at all, I feel like that would be really cool for me personally. It's not a mandatory. It's a nice to have. You know what I mean?
If anyone listening to this or watching this, if you got a plug at Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Crunchyroll, anywhere, that is really focused on animation, that really can push the culture forward. Don't forget my man Individual, because he will definitely be, like I keep on saying, I think the theme of this episode is contributing to the culture. And that is what you've been doing. That's what you've been doing, bro. What? And a complete last question. What advice would you give to a young cat that's trying to pursue animation and illustration? What advice would you give them?
All right, so listen up. Nah, I honestly think before you get to like the cool stuff of like cartoon style or illustration style or anything like that, really study anatomy. Anatomy is difficult.
Wow.
And it's not always fun, to be quite honest. But it gives you the essentials to be able to know how to create something accurately and beautifully. Then once you practice anatomy a lot more, you'll find more of your style start to show up because you're practicing the essentials and you're being disciplined in it. It's not something that you ever stop. You kind of constantly need to do it, and that's what will perfect your skills. Once your skills are up, then you can start to explore different things like how you want to do the eyes or how you want to do the hands or whatever it is. Another thing is, honestly, if you're not creating art every day, you're not creating enough. Sound like a lot, but if it's just a doodle, if it's scribbles, you need to be creating something every single day. You cannot you cannot aspire to be an artist who reaches new heights if you're not consistent and disciplined in what you're doing right now. Like what you aspire to do essentially requires your everyday attention. If you're not practicing that now, you're not going to be able to develop those skills that you need for later. So you have to be disciplined in creating every single day right now with whatever you have and just going from there. I think it's actually better if you don't have everything that you would like to have in order to be content, in order to start creating, because then that actually makes you more creative because you're limited in a sense and you have to think of new ways outside of the box.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what just happened. Maybe his phone died or something died. Man, we were just getting to the root of it, y'all. The end of it. Um, let's hope he pop back in sooner rather than later. But I really just want to say, everyone, thank you for joining in the conversation. One of my close friends and talented friends who is truly contributing to this culture. And I am so blessed to be part of that ride with him. And I hope that you join us on that ride. Just making sure that you follow him on social media. Yes, he just reached out to me, y'all, and said that his his laptop just shut off on him. uh, so I think it's truly important to really take away some of the things that he was mentioning in the conversation, and ultimately it's persevering through the adversity that's thrown at you, and being okay with not being where you want to be at that moment. I think we got him back. Let's see this. Okay. Welcome back, David.
That was annoying me, man.
I was into it and it said click. Oh. But sake of your laptop before it do what it do again, I want to get to the part where I give you your flowers. This is something that I like to do on all my check-ins because first and foremost, I like to check in on people because who's checking on you? You know, who's checking on you truly? If we continue to just persevere through life, who's taking the time off to see if you are okay? I think you and I can definitely attest that we are one who makes sure others are okay rather than ourselves sometimes. So this is a moment where I want to give you flowers. We tend to give flowers a little bit way too late, and I'd rather give the flowers where you can actually receive those. So with that being said, David, I just want to ultimately say I appreciate you more than you actually know. I consider you as a Robinson. You may not be a Robinson, but you are part of my family. To a point where I told you that I want you to be the godfather of my future child. That's not here. First, I got to find me a lady, but that's a whole nother story. But I'm admired. I am admired by your work ethic. I am admired by your humility, how humble you are, how intelligent you are, and how open to hear constructive criticism. I know when you talk to the guys, it's a little bit difficult, and I know for me, because it's been brought to my attention multiple times, it could be. I've never been told I was difficult, but people can bet on to get the real from me when they ask my opinion. If you ask Ian, what's your thought? I'm going to give you my thought. You are asking me my thought. So if you are looking for fluff, you need to go to somewhere else. But that's not what I do because I expect the same thing back. Because any constructive criticism necessary would make me even better. Because I just want to be great. And the way I came into Fredonia and pretty much infiltrated y'all group already that y'all already have with welcome arms and seeing the person that you are, it's so amazing. It's so amazing and you are one of the few people that's in my life that I'm very blessed to have in my life. Because it's important that we continue this relationship and continue this bond, because as much as my parents, my family is important, our relationship is important to me, and even our friend group is important to me. Um, I grew up with five brothers. I grew up with five brothers, but that's a different dynamic. I'm really close with I would say now in 2020 I'm very close with all of them, but before it was a little bit rocky. And you, Dean, David, Sharon, excuse me, and Kima filled that void for me in Fredonia, and really was there for me when I'm that very openness person. I'm very always there for my downfalls and ups, and there to motivate me when I'm feeling down or challenge me, which I really appreciate. So, with all that being said, my man, continue to be great and continue to inspire, because what you're doing is inspiring so many people that you may not even know. You are inspiring a group of Black creatives to see, like, wow, this Black brother is doing what he's doing. I can do it too. And ultimately, this is what we do it for, because I've been told many times that me doing music business is not something that I can do proficiently, being from where I'm at. But I can say that I have small successes that put me in places where a lot of people would think that wouldn't have happened. So again, my man, I want to give you your flowers and just let you know that I appreciate you. And matter of fact, I'm gonna say as a man, I love you, bro, and I appreciate you.
Love you too, man. For real. Thank you. I appreciate
Is there anything
that.
anything from this whole conversation you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I really want to give you your flowers, right?
Go ahead, everybody.
Spotlight on other people and bringing them to the forefront, but also diving into a lot of different things that like people can take and really be inspired by, and really be encouraged by. Like, just to have this idea to check in with other people takes a certain kind of heart. It takes a certain kind of consistency and discipline, but it also takes a certain kind of mind to like think outside of oneself in such a way that highlights other people and brings other people together, so that we can all learn, so that we can all discuss, and so that we can all chill out. It's really doing a lot, man. You're doing a lot for mad different people, and you're leaving your mark on the people, right? Like a lot of people want to leave their mark in history, but to me, the best way to do that is to leave your mark on people.
Ooh,
Doing that, like you're leaving your legacy within other people around you, and uplifting those who you may not even be that close with. Like there might be somebody random watching this, which you're not even close with, but it's leaving a mark on them. You know what I mean? So like you're doing amazing things yourself. So I think you should get a pat on the back as well.
my man, I thank you for that.
Yeah, man.
Means a lot. With that being said, that's it. You made it through, David.
Yeah.
To check in with Ian and Ian Robinson,
Right.
and too bad.
All right.
With that being said, happy holidays, everyone who's been watching, who's been listening. This is the season 2 finale, y'all. It's crazy because I just started, I think May of this year, and I'm already into season 2, and I've been getting so much good reviews, and I just can't thank y'all enough for y'all tuning in every time my ass would go on live and have these conversations with a lot of people, and getting to dive in the conversation. Your words have been received and have been appreciated. And like I say to everyone, in the end of this, our conversation is continue to be great and continue to inspire. Thank you all. Be blessed and be great.